What's up, guys? I'm back to drop some more knowledge on you. And today we're going to be talking about the UFC 260 preliminary card. So I'll be breaking down every fight on the card and I'll be giving you my prediction for the fight. And I'll also go over the betting lines and talk about if there's any value on the betting lines, right? Because that's what I do here. I love MMA. I love watching MMA. But I love betting on MMA and I love winning money while I'm watching my favorite sport even more. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be trying to earn some money on the preliminary card as well as break them down. And I will actually just give you my pure prediction, right? So I don't want to spend too long on this video. Usually they're a little bit longer. I'll go more in depth, but I still have some taping to do for the next UFC card, which is Darren Till versus Marvin Vettori. And there's a couple Bellator cards that I want to tape and get some bets out to my members before I go to sleep. So yeah, I'm just going to quickly bang this out. We won't spend too long on it and we'll get straight into it. The first fight on the card is AbuZayat versus Marc-Andre Barriault. Now, both of these guys are actually coming back from USADA suspensions. I don't know if Marc-Andre Barriault was actually suspended by USADA, but I know he did pop for something in his last fight, which he actually won by knockout against Oscar Pichota. And on the other hand, we've got AbuZayat. He definitely was suspended by USADA. I believe he was originally suspended for 1 year, but it was reduced to 7 months because apparently he proved that what he was taking and what he was banned for was actually prescribed to him by his doctor, right? Now, look, I'm not here to get into whether that's true or not. I do know AbuZayat is a bit of a dodgy guy. I didn't get too much into it, but a couple of months ago, he was actually, I believe it was him or his brother, was kicked out of the UFC for good by Dana White because they was breaching COVID protocols on Fight Island. They was giving their wristbands to other people to let them get through. They also was scaling the building, the side of the building, I believe, because he had something in his bag that he didn't want to show. There was a lot of dodgy stuff going on. I don't really remember the ins and outs of all of it, but you know, he could potentially still be on the juice or something like that. I don't know. I'm not here to get into that, but I'm just here to get into the actual stylistic matchup of the fight. So that's exactly what we'll do, right? And both of these fighters are pretty low-ish level, in my opinion. They're both middleweights, but as you can see here, AbuZayat only has 5'11" on his height, and obviously Marc-Andre Barriault has a 2-inch height advantage, standing at 6'1". So you know he's not a very tall middleweight, AbuZayat, but he's built like a brick, right? He's built very stiff. He's built like a wrecking ball, basically. And that's kind of how he fights. So he throws a lot of volume out there. He'll walk you down. He'll throw all different types of strikes. You know, he's not limited to boxing or kickboxing or wrestling. He'll throw everything, really. He doesn't go for too many takedowns. He's more of a striker. But as I say, his volume is really what sets him apart from, I guess, other fighters. So he'll throw out a lot of volume, a lot of leg kicks, a lot of body kicks, a lot of punches. He'll walk forward. His cardio seems to be decent. He does gas out a little bit, but because of the volume that he puts out, it's obvious that he's going to gas out slightly, right? So I don't take too much away from him in that regard. I actually say that he's actually got pretty good cardio for the amount of volume he's able to keep up in his fights, right? But he's been out of the game now for around 2 years, you know, because of that suspension. And then I think there was a couple fights cancelled. So, you know, he's been out of the game for a while, whereas Marc-Andre Barriault, he's been pretty active. You know, he fought against Oscar Pichota last time out. He got a knockout win there. But before that, he was on a 3-fight or a 2-fight losing streak in the UFC with losses over Jun Young Park, which isn't a bad loss. You know, Jun Young Park was able to take him down consistently and just kind of, you know, beat him in the boxing. And then, you know, when he was getting pressured, which is what Marc-Andre Barriault is good at. He is good at pressuring. Jun Young Park would take it to the wrestling and he was able to control him on the ground there. So, you know, as I said, Marc-Andre Barriault is a pressure fighter. And I believe this is going to actually be a good fight. As I said, it's pretty low level, but I do think this is going to be a good fight because just of the stylistic matchup of the guys, right? So Marc-Andre will definitely pressure Abu, but then Abu is going to be throwing lots of volume. And Abu, he's a tough dude. You know, if he's anything, he's definitely a tough physical specimen. I've seen him get taken down before, and the way he defends submissions and the way he pops up to his feet is not really a technical way. He kind of just muscles himself up because he's a very muscly guy, right? So he's not going to back down when Mark tries to push him up against the fence, and he's going to be throwing a lot of volume, as I said. So I think it's going to be a pretty good stylistic fight. I think, you know, we'll see a lot of action in this fight. But just with a prediction, the betting line, I think Marc-Andre is currently like a -125 favorite. Then you've got AbuZayat probably like +110 or something. Look, I don't see much value on the line. As you can see here, it actually does say on Tapology he's -115, but I think there has been some money come in on him since that is updated. Yeah, I favor Barrios slightly, I guess, just because he's been more active. Also because I don't really rate Azaitar, to be honest. But, you know, Azaitar, look, you can see, has won his last 5 fights, and Mark's only won one of his last 5 fights, you know. So this is a low-level fight. I could see it going either way. I could see it being a close decision. And, you know, I just don't know who you want to side with here. I'm going to go with Marc-Andre Barrios to get the win. But would I be surprised if AbuZayat can out-volume in? No. AbuZayat is under Abdelaziz, Ali Abdelaziz. So if it does go to decision, you know, will they give it to the Ali fighter? Look, possibly. Yeah, this is a fight I don't want nothing to do with. But I am going to take Marc-Andre Barrios to get the decision win here. The next fight on the card, which, you know, has been probably the fight of the week on MMA Twitter in regards to, you know, what people are talking about, and not because of the matchup, just because this fight has like been on the card, then it was taken off the card, then it was put back on the card, then it was taken off the card on MMA Twitter, but in reality, it was never even taken off the card. So basically what I'm speaking to is Shane Young, as you can see here on the left. He is a training partner of Alexander Volkanovski, right? Alexander Volkanovski trains in Australia. He doesn't train at City Kickboxing, although he does go to City Kickboxing a lot. And Shane Young trains at City Kickboxing, which is in New Zealand. So they're not in the same country, but they kind of got a partnership. Alexander Volkanovski often trains at his gym, and I'm pretty sure Shane Young probably often trains in Australia with Alexander Volkanovski as well. So they're friends, they're training partners often, and they have been training together for this card. I don't know exactly where that training took place. I would assume Auckland, but yeah, I'm not too sure. But Alexander, obviously, as most of you know, tested positive for COVID-19. So he was pulled from his fight against Brian Ortega, which was actually meant to be the co-main event of this card this weekend. And because of that, there was lots of rumors going around that Shane Young and also Jamie Mullarkey, who's further on up the card, I believe he kicks off the main card against Kama Worthy, were going to be pulled off this card because they was obviously training with Volkanovski, and Volkanovski tested positive. But that actually never officially happened by the UFC, right? So the fight was never taken off the card, right? Actually, most bookmakers, I think almost all bookmakers withdrew this fight from the card, but they didn't withdraw the Jamie Mullarkey fight, which is pretty confusing. But yeah, they withdrew this fight from the card. But as I say, it was never taken off the card. So at the moment, this fight is on. Okay, but it's obviously subject to COVID protocols like any other fighter. If they do test positive or someone in their corner tests positive, the fight will be pulled. But I'm pretty sure it's going to go on because they haven't tested positive and they have been tested multiple times since Volkanovski tested positive. So for now, we're going to go if this fight is on. And I hope it is on because I got a decent read on this fight, I think. I believe Omar Morales is going to come out with the win, right? That's a quick pick there. So I did actually break this fight down pretty in-depth on my betting podcast. And if you haven't heard my podcast, definitely go check it out. Subscribe on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, anywhere you get your podcast. It's called The Lucrative MMA Betting Podcast. And every week I put that podcast out and I go over the most inaccurate betting line on the card, the most exciting fight on the card, and I talk about the main event, right? All from a betting perspective. And this week, the most inaccurate betting line on the card was actually this fight, in my opinion. It was the -175 on Omar Morales. He can still be had for -175 in places, -180. As you can see here, Tapology has him as a -185. So I believe that is an inaccurate line. I think you should be capping Omar Morales at least a 70% here, which is -233. Look, I could even be pushing Omar up 75, 80% range in this fight. So the reason I believe that is because I just believe Omar Morales is a level above in the striking here. So he doesn't have as much volume as Shane Young, but that's the only thing he doesn't have, in my opinion. So I think cardio-wise, they both got very good cardio. You know, I don't think any of these guys are going to slow down. We saw Omar Morales go 3 hard rounds against Gabriel Benitez in a very fast-paced fight. And then we saw Omar Morales go another 3 hard rounds against Giga Chikadze, where he was kind of getting pieced apart. And, you know, it takes a lot out of you when you're getting beat up, right? But he still was coming hard, even in that 3rd round. You know, he was pushing the pace. So respect to Omar. I think he's got very solid cardio. Same thing with Shane Young, man. He's got very solid cardio. We've seen him go 3 hard rounds with Austin Arnett, and he went over 100 significant strikes there. So, you know, that's very good output. We've seen him go 3 rounds with Volkanovski. And yeah, he's a tough guy, and he's got solid cardio. So both of them have got good cardio. And Shane Young has definitely got more volume. But the thing is that a lot of these fighters, when they are high volume fighters, when they come up against a superior striker, they're not high volume fighters anymore. The reason is because that superior striker can kind of dictate the pace of the fight and also just not be there for them strikes to land, right? Because they're a superior striker. So sometimes when you're looking at UFCstats.com and you're looking at, you know, who's the more higher volume striker, which volume wins a lot of fights at the end of the day, right? Especially in women's MMA. But it can be a little bit deceiving because it depends who they're fighting, right? For example, if I'm fighting my nan, my volume's going to be, you know, super high. Now, obviously not. I wouldn't hurt my nan, but you get what I'm trying to say. If I'm fighting someone who's not good at fighting, my volume's probably going to be super high. If I'm fighting Shane Young, I ain't going to have good volume because the dude's not going to be there for me to hit him, and he's just going to be tagging me. So you understand what I'm saying, right? So I do think the Shane volume being a lot higher volume than Omar Morales which is an advantage I do give him. But even that advantage, I don't think it tells the tale of what this fight's going to be, right? So other than the volume and the cardio, which I've spoke about, I think Omar Morales has more power here. So he is the one who's going to be able to hurt Shane Young. Shane Young, he doesn't have too much power from what I've seen. He did drop Austin Arnett, but that was kind of like when he rushed him at the end. And, you know, he definitely has power, but I just don't think he has as much power as Omar Morales. I'm pretty confident he doesn't have as much power as Omar Morales. Omar hits very hard. He hasn't got a knockout in the UFC yet, but he did get a knockout in the Dana White's Contender Series. But he's fought Gabriel Benitez. It's not easy to knock out, right? We've seen Yusuf put him out, but he doesn't get knocked out like consistently. Gabriel Benitez is a very solid guy and a very solid striker, better striker than Shane Young, in my opinion. And then we see him fight Giga, and he was outclassed in that fight, right? And a lot of people are saying that they don't like Omar Morales anymore because of his fight IQ in that Giga Chikadze fight, right? And because he got beaten at Giga Chikadze fight. Guys, Giga Chikadze it's not Shane Young, man. Giga Chikadze is a high-level kickboxer, right? Whatever you want to say about him. I know people don't really like Giga's game just because I guess they've seen him get taken down a couple of times. They think he's only a kickboxer. But look, his takedown defense is drastically improved now. And he fights on the outside. He fights a range game. You know, he snipes you from the outside with laser shots. He's got great kicks. He keeps you on the outside. Shane Young doesn't keep you on the outside. Shane Young likes to get in your face, put you to the octagon, and hit you with hard shots, right? If he does that against Omar, I believe Omar's getting the fight he wants because Omar wants that close quarters combat. And even if he doesn't have the close quarters combat, I believe Omar's got better kicks here. So he's got Shane covered in most areas, in my opinion. Now, I don't think Shane's going to go down easy like he did in his last fight. He got KO'd in about 60 seconds by Ludovic Klein, who seems to be a good prospect. But I do think Omar's going to kind of have him covered everywhere. You got to give Shane the advantage of age. He's 27 years old, so he could be making improvements. Omar Morales is 35 years old, but I just think Omar Morales is a bit of a level above, and I'm going to give Omar Morales the win here. We'll move on to the next fight. Shout out to Z. Z's MMA is chiming in. He's saying here for a live. Hit the like button, folks. Lucrative is a real one. Thank you, brother. So are you. Everyone go follow Z's MMA if you haven't done already, but I'm pretty sure you probably know the dude. Very sharp guy. Yeah, hit the like button because I always forget to say that, right? And it does help the video a lot, man. And if you help me out, I'm going to be more motivated to make videos to help you out. So please hit the like button. Appreciate that, everybody. Mike Bilby saying, enjoying the breakdown, James. Approximately what percentage are you thinking on Morales inside the distance? Might hit that when I have access, depending on the price, of course. Okay, let's break this down. So insight into how I break this down. So 75% chance of Morales winning, in my opinion, right? That's being conservative. We could go a little bit higher, but let me just say 75%. out of them, look, Shane Young's a tough guy. I know Shane Young got knocked out recently against Ludovic Klein, but Shane Young went 3 rounds against Alexander Volkanovski. Shane Young is a tough dude, man. He's a New Zealander. He's a tough guy. I'd probably say maybe like 60% of the time Omar wins, he wins by knockout. And 40% of the time he wins by decision. So what's 60% of 75%? I don't know. So I'm going to type it in my phone right now. 60% of 75%. 60% of 75%. Guys, if anyone's in the chat who can do this for me, because my phone's playing up right now. Okay, so 60% of 75 is 45, right? So that means I give him about a 45% chance of KOing Shane Young here, right? So I'm basically 45% chance. That is like plus 130, right? Yeah, Mike's saying it's 45% chance. So I'm saying plus 130 is probably where it should be lined at. So I'm pretty sure I'm almost certain we're going to get better than plus 130 for inside the distance. So, you know, if you can get anything better than plus 170, if you can get anything better than plus 160, there's probably a little bit of value on there. But yeah, that's it. Yeah, I say I'd cap this about plus 130. So anything better than plus 160, I say you can pull the trigger. Next fight, Modestas Bukauskas versus Michelle Alexejczyk. Yeah, so this is a good fight, man. This is actually a sleeper fight. I think this is going to be a pretty good fight. I think we're going to have a lot of action in this fight, and I think it's going to be a banger, especially for them first 1.5 rounds. Now, the reason I say for them first 1.5 rounds is because Michelle Alexejczyk, I hope I'm getting that right. Should we just call him Lord? But yeah, Michelle Alexejczyk is kind of a 1.5 round fighter, right? He comes out like an absolute lunatic and tries to put you away. A lot of times he does put you away. Just ask John Vellante. Ask the other dude he put away in the UFC. Can't remember. It was very early. Antigulov, you know, he put him away. But these guys are not great fighters, guys. John Vellante at this point in his career, you know, and this was only a couple of years ago, I believe. It's not a great fighter. Same thing with Antigulov. You know, he's not a great fighter. Antigulov is kill or be killed as well. So I don't take too much away from that. But when Alexejczyk fought OSP, that is what I do take away. He put it on OSP. And we do know OSP is kind of a weird fighter, like can be very plodding. He definitely can get it put on him. And he usually comes back in fights, right? OSP is kind of like a comeback fighter. And that's what he did against Alexejczyk. But I was impressed with Alexejczyk in the first round. But he kind of emptied his tank in that first round. So, like, it's not that hard to impress me if you're just literally going to empty your tank. Do you know what I mean? Because you're putting everything out there. And against someone like OSP, he's going to kind of take that storm. He's going to weather that storm or try to weather that storm and then finish you late or try to. And that's what he did, you know. OSP weathered the storm from Alexejczyk, and he was able to take him out with a Von Flue choke, I believe it was in the second round, after Alexejczyk was gassed. So Alexejczyk needs to manage his cardio, but that's just not the way he fights. So we can't assume he's going to do that in this fight. So I do think he's going to come out and try and put it on Bukauskas. And let me tell you, Bukauskas got it put on him in his last fight, and he got put out when he got it put on him in his last fight. But that's against Jimmy Crute, someone who was able to dominate Michelle Alexejczyk as well. So Jimmy Crute's a level above both these guys. So I'm not going to, you know, say Alexejczyk's going to definitely be able to do what Jimmy Crute done to Bukauskas, but there's definitely a path there, right? So Bukauskas is a huge guy. He's 6'3", and Alexejczyk's only 6 foot. The reach advantage is 4 inches here. So he's got 3-inch reach advantage. He's got a 4-inch reach advantage, does Bukauskas, and he also has a 3-inch height advantage. So he's going to be the longer guy here. He's going to want to keep it on the outside. Bukauskas is basically an out-and-out striker. He's going to be wanting to strike Alexejczyk, and Alexejczyk is a striker as well, you know, and that's why I think it's going to be very fun. Alexejczyk's going to have to crush that distance because he's got such a huge reach disadvantage, and he's going to try and wing hooks over the top, which Jimmy Crute did knock Bukauskas out with before, and I have seen him knocked out with the regional scene with an overhand before, although he was crashing the distance, so he kind of ran into it. Basically, what I'm saying is we've seen Bukauskas being put out, and we've seen Alexejczyk throw a lot of the shots that have put Bukauskas out or gave him trouble in the past. So the writing on the wall is kind of there for Alexejczyk early second round TKO. But I am not going to be betting him as a favorite because he gasses, right? So that's the big caveat here. Now, if he had 3 rounds of cardio, it's AbuZayat all day, because I do think he's probably, I don't want to say the better technical striker. He's not the better technical striker, but he's just a better striker overall. He's the more, or in this matchup, how these guys strike in, I'm not going to say one is better striker than the other, but what I'm going to say is in this matchup, how they're striking offense and striking defense relates to each other. I believe that AbuZayat has a better overall striking game to win this specific matchup, right? Because Bukauskas doesn't have great striking defense, and against smaller fighters, I do believe they can exploit Bukauskas's quote-unquote tall man defense. People like to use that word, right? And Bukauskas has kind of got it here, right? So the way I see this fight playing out is probably AbuZayat comes out like a madman, as he always does, throws a lot of body shots, could hurt Bukauskas to the body. I do like fighters when they implement body shots with regularity, because it is somewhat of a hidden art in MMA, like the jab. But AbuZayat definitely, it's not a hidden art for him. He uses body shots a lot, and it's going to be good against a taller fighter here, right? So I believe he's going to put it on Bukauskas in that first round. Now, if Bukauskas can last that first round, I do think he's going to actually be able to get AbuZayat out of there in that third round. Because one thing I will say about Bukauskas is that although he can get it put on him, he has really good cardio. I've seen him be beat in fights for 2-3 rounds on the regional scene in Cage Warriors in the UK, and I've seen him come back and get knockouts more than once. So I've seen him get beat through the majority of the fight and come back and get a knockout more than one time. And a couple of them fights were pretty grueling fights. He was getting grappled, he was getting wrestled on the floor, right? So it was tiring for him to have to keep getting up from bottom, but he did, and then he was able to deliver the knockout. So I do rate Bukauskas as a guy with a lot of heart, a guy with very good cardio. I have seen him get knockouts past the third round before, specifically one fight in Cage Warriors where he got knocked out in the 4th round after largely being grappled for the first 3 rounds. He's got very good cardio, he's got very good heart, and he's not going to go away unless you put him away. The thing is, AbuZayat definitely could put him away. So I'm going to go with Michel AbuZayat to overwhelm Bukauskas and get a 3rd round TKO. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Bukauskas weather that storm, play it smart on the outside. AbuZayat gasses, and Bukauskas either wins the 2nd and 3rd rounds or even gets a 2nd and 3rd round TKO, right? There we go. I don't see much value on the line, but I do believe the line is set pretty accurately, just because I do think AbuZayat has a good chance of finishing the fight in the 1st round. And, even though he does gas, it is possible he could win the first 8 minutes to bank him 2 rounds, and then he gets a decision if he doesn't get stopped in the 3rd round by gassing. So, yeah, I do lean AbuZayat. I will say gets it done in the 1st round, but again, not really a fight I'm looking to bet at the current money line odds. But if you want to look at some prop bets, there are some value on props there in regards to the finishing props, in my opinion, because as I said, one gasses and one gasses, one comes on late, but one starts early, and the other one's susceptible to being knocked out. So, do with that information what you will. Yeah. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to get through this real quick. Do with that information what you will. The next fight we have is Jared Goodman versus Abubakar Nurmagomedov. Now, Abubakar Nurmagomedov is either Khabib's brother or Khabib's cousin, one of the two. I don't really know. The only thing I do know is that he's not Khabib, guys. This guy is not Khabib. He's not even a very good fighter, in my opinion. And I don't want to be disrespectful, but at the end of the day, I'm a bettor, and this is what I have to do: analyze fights to a T and break them down. And I'm breaking this down by saying Abubakar Nurmagomedov, he's not a great fighter. He's not a great fighter, man. So obviously he's a wrestler. That is his, he comes from Dagestan. He's Khabib's family. He's definitely a wrestler, but look, he's got decent takedowns. I will say he's got decent takedowns, good single leg. And he times his takedowns well, but he's not very good on top. That's the one thing that sets him apart from Khabib, in my opinion. Look, actually, I should take that back. There's many things that set him apart from Khabib, but one of the things I really realized was that his top control is nothing special, man. Like, he's not very good positionally. He's nowhere near as strong as Khabib, so he isn't able to like get that Dagestani handcuff, get that wrist control, get that leg control. He isn't very dominant on top, whereas Khabib is just suffering. He's not like that. Now, look, can he stay in top control and keep you on the floor? Of course he can, He's just nowhere near the level of Khabib, and I have seen a lot of fighters who are not very good fighters on the regional scene get up from bottom when he takes them down. He will go for another takedown, so, it is good, but he definitely stays on the feet longer than he should, in my opinion, because he's not a very good striker. I would say that it's hard because like Khabib's definitely a better striker just because it's come so long. But technically, I would say Abubakar's like the more comfortable striker. He's the more born striker. You can kind of tell Khabib's striking is heavily reliant on his wrestling and his pressure, whereas Abubakar actually technique for technique is, he's not too bad. Like he throws a decent 1-2 straight hand. He throws, a decent uppercut. Like he's not too bad on the feet, but he's not high level. Jared Good, on the other hand, he's not the greatest fighter either. This isn't, a high level fight by any means. But I do think the line's a little bit off. Abubakar's like -225. You can get Jared Gooden for +175. I think you can get Jared Gooden for like +200 now. As I say, I think the betting line has, more money's coming on Abubakar Nurmagomedov, probably because people are seeing his surname, So, look, I do think Abubakar's probably going to be able to get the win here by decision. He'll just be able to take him down. I have seen Jared Gooden taken down multiple times on the regional scene. He is athletic, so sometimes he can pop back up, but his technique to get him back up is not great. I've seen him give his back when he's got up before as well, and look, the path to victory is clear as day for Abubakar Nurmagomedov, but can we trust the guy at this price range who, we've seen tapped out in his UFC debut from a triangle choke? You're meant to be a grappler. You're meant to be good on top, and you're getting tapped out by a triangle choke. It's not a good look, right? But that was his UFC debut. Maybe there was some, jitters there, maybe some octagon jitters, as they call them. But still, it's not a good look, man. And it definitely begs the question to his, to his fight IQ, to his positional IQ when he's in top position. And if he wants to win this fight, he's going to have to be in top position. Now, do I think he's going to get guard sub by Jared Gooden? Probably not. Jared Gooden is a striker. He does have some submissions on his record, but he is more of a striker. Look, Abubakar needs to take this fight to the ground multiple times in this fight and, keep him down there. When Jared Gooden is on the feet with Abubakar Nurmagomedov, he's going to be landing the cleaner, more impactful punches. And a lot of times what we see these days is if the fighter gets taken down, but, if the fighter takes another fighter down but doesn't do any damage from top position, they don't really rate that much highly in the eyes of the judges. If the fight is on the feet for a minute and the other fighter who was taken down is able to get some good striking off, a lot of times they give that fighter the round. And even if a fighter is on bottom, sometimes they give him the round if he's doing more damage, or she's doing more damage. I think back to the Caitlin Vieira versus Yana Kunitskaya fight. Caitlin Vieira had like so much top control and so much control in the grappling there, but because Yana was like elbowing from underneath and stuff like that, they gave the fight to Yana, right? So I think the path to victory is there for Nurmagomedov, but I'm not trusting him at this price tag. And this, if it gets to like over +200, there's probably going to start to be some value on Jared Gooden there. But I'm not putting my money on Jared Gooden because the path to victory is so clear for Abubakar. So look, I'm going to take Abubakar Nurmagomedov to win via decision. But as I say, not very much value on the money lines here. And there's not much value on the prop bets either. I've seen Abubakar Nurmagomedov via decision. If you can get that above +150, yeah, probably value. I know some books got it at +150, so maybe. But as I said, this card is not very good for betting, guys. Like, I've said this on my podcast in the midweek. This card's not good for betting. So, if you want to bet on this card, if you do have the same opinion as me and you don't think it's good for betting, you're not seeing much, just relax. You don't have to bet. We don't have to bet every week. We don't have to bet every fight. We're not the bookmakers. The bookmakers have to put out lines for every single fight. We don't have to do that, right? We're sports bettors. We can pick our spots, which is the beauty of being on this side as opposed to being on the other side, which is bookmakers setting lines, right? We can pick our spots. And if you don't see any good spots, just wait till next week, man. If you want to have a couple flyers on some funny prop plays, fair enough. just keep your stakes low maybe to make the fight fun. But I don't bet for fun. I bet to make actual real money from this. And I have been doing it for many years. So I do have a couple spots that I've bet on this, but it's a much lighter slate than most weeks for me. I think I've only bet on like 3 fights out of the whole 10-fight card. And usually that's not how I bet, because I am an all-round bettor, as I say, and I bet on props and I bet on straights as well. So with them props, you can often find value in most matchups. So sometimes I'm betting on 7 or 8 fights on the card. I've only bet on, actually, one of my fights that I bet on got cancelled. So I'm only betting on 2 fights this card, right? And that's called discipline. That's called not betting for the sake of it, right? And that's what I'm doing. I have a service here. I'm here to make money. So yeah, just go light. What I would say. Take precaution. There's always next week. Okay. Bleed is saying sometimes a pass is a win. Exactly. Sometimes the best bet is no bet. That's what I always say. And that's so true, man. There's been a lot of fights where I've wanted to bet on it and I've passed on it and I class it as a win. I celebrate like as a win, right? Because I'm like, thank fuck I didn't put my money into that. Sometimes even if I bet the right fighter or I wanted to bet the winner, sometimes I'm like, I'm glad I didn't bet that fight because it was a sweaty fight. It would have been a bad bet if I did it. So 100%, sometimes the pass is a win. And this card on the whole, to me, is pretty much a pass. But I will say that I have my second biggest bet of the whole year on this card. So even though the card isn't very good, there is one spot which I really like. So anyway, this next fight, look, I don't have too much to say about this fight because I just don't really know much about Alonzo Menifield's opponent. This is a late notice fight for both of these guys. Obviously, Alonzo was slated to fight William Knight. William Knight got pulled off. I don't know why. I'm almost certain it's COVID, even without knowing why. But yeah, Menifield is fighting Fabio Sharan here. I don't know much about Fabio. I do know that he has got a lot of submissions on his record, so I'm guessing he's going to try and get this fight to the ground here. But I haven't done tape on this fight, as you can tell, so I'm not going to give you an in-depth breakdown, and I'm not going to give you a prediction, right? Because I haven't done tape on this. What I will say is that Alonzo Menifield is obviously going to be the favorite. He's actually a -260 favorite, and I'm almost certain that his price is going to increase, or his price is going to get worse, I should say. So if you do want to bet Alonzo Menifield, probably jump on Alonzo Menifield at -260 after you've done tape, because he'll probably go off a -350 here because, I have heard some things about Sharan. He's not very great to what I've heard. Other people who I respect, I've asked about this fight. They said that he's not very good. So I trust their opinion. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of money coming on in Sharan. And because he's coming in on such late notice, that's just another reason to not get behind him. I will do tape on this and maybe I'll change my opinion. One thing I also will say is Alonzo Menifield is a first-round fighter, right? I think all his wins except for one are in the first round, and he's got one win, and his other win that's not in the first round is in the second round, like 40 seconds into that second round. So he's a one-round fighter. Anytime it gets extended past that, he usually loses. He lost to Devin Clark and he lost to OSP. He got knocked out against OSP in his last fight. So he may be tentative coming out here. We don't know how he's going to react to that. I will say, though, that, his takedown defense is pretty solid, and people probably would want to take Alonzo down because he's so dangerous with the striking, especially in that first round, right? Devin Clark tried to take him down many times, wasn't really successful of doing it. He's got solid takedown defense. So, Sharan looking like he's a submission fighter, more of a submission fighter anyway. He's probably going to want to take Alonzo down. He probably won't be able to do it because I do rate Alonzo's takedown defense as pretty high. He's a very athletic guy. I think he was in another sport before, possibly the NFL. So he's a very athletic dude. He's able to stay on his feet. So, all signs are probably pointing to Alonzo via first-round KO. And even if it does get extended, I wouldn't just bank on Alonzo completely death-gassing and losing the fight just because he's fighting a fighter who is actually coming in on short notice. So maybe his cardio is not up to scratch. And even if Alonzo does gas, he might not be able to put it on him as much as he needs to win the fight. So, as I said, no prediction for this fight because I haven't done tape. So, yeah, I'm not even going to say who's going to win. So that's it. That's the whole prelim card. After that, we got Jamie Mullarkey versus Karma Worthy opening up the main card, and I can't wait for the fights. To be honest, all the main card I can't wait for. Except I don't care too much about the Mullarkey card. It's Malarkey fight, but I'm definitely excited for Gillian Robinson fight, Thomas Almeida and Sean O'Malley. That was the most exciting fight I said on my podcast. We got Tyron Woodley versus Luque, and obviously the rematch, Stipe Miocic versus Francis Ngannou. I can't wait for that one. That's going to be amazing. Who knows what's going to happen there? Who knows? So good luck to anyone who's betting on this card. As I said, bit of a shit show for betting, but I do have my second biggest bet of the year. So hopefully you guys can cash as I hopefully can as well. If any of you want to sign up for my service, we're 2 years profitable now. We're profitable this year, up 19 units. You can check me out on betmma.tips to make sure I'm third-party tracked and verified, which I am. And just go to my website if you want to find more about me. I have a free tips section on my website where you can give me your email and I will send you free tips as and when I put them out. So lucrativemmabetting.com for that. And yeah, you can hit me up in the DMs. I'm very accessible on social media at Lucrative MMA. And that's it, guys. I appreciate everyone coming here. Please hit the like button. I'm only a small channel right now, but we definitely will grow because I'm going to put the work in, and just as I do on the betting front. So good luck on all your bets, and hopefully we can cash, and I'll see you next week.